What's up, all my movie loving maniacs? This your boy Bangful B of the Lassiter Factor, and I am concluding my journey to James Gunn's Superman, which will be released in a few weeks from now, with Zack Snyder's Justice League, which this is actually my second time ever watching, so let's review. Now, I know what most of y'all probably thinking. Wait, you didn't review the theatrical cut of Justice League. Well, fuck that movie. To me, Zack Snyder's Justice League is the superior cut. In fact, every time I watch Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, I'm just more apathetic towards the theatrical version. It makes me not want to watch it anymore. And I didn't want to go back and rewatch that anyway, because I remember the first time watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was like night and day. This movie, moving on. But in any case, Zack Snyder's Justice League, or Justice League in general, the movie, it basically takes place sometime after the events of Batman vs. Superman, in which Batman, Bruce Wayne, he's recruiting metahumans to form the Justice League because Steppenwolf has come to Earth looking for the mother boxes. After Superman dies, the mother boxes get activated, and so now it's up to the Justice League to save the world from Steppenwolf and stop Darkseid from coming in and starting the anti-life equation. Now, look, I'm not going to go too deep into the history of how Zack Snyder's Justice League happened, but you basically know it. But to sum it up, basically, Warner Brothers stepped in trying to make a movie that wasn't Zack Snyder's vision, hence how we got the theatrical cut, and we all know how that turned out, and then that started the whole release the Snyder Cut movement. And Warner Brothers got the bright idea to think, you know what, why not release the Snyder Cut during the pandemic while everybody is stuck at home, and we have this cool streaming service that we just released called HBO Max. So, hey, why not? And it came out in 2021. I remember watching it, and like I said, it was like night and day. And how do I feel about this movie even being my second viewing? Like I said, I still feel the same way I do. Like, I'm just, every time I revisit this, I am just more apathetic towards the theatrical cut. This is clearly the superior cut. This is clearly Zack Snyder's vision that was a lot better than it had any right to be. All due respect to Zack Snyder. He's made some movies I liked. He's made some movies I didn't quite like. But this right here, this was clearly Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and to a lesser degree, Wonder Woman. This was all leading up to this, and it's clear that by this point, he basically knew what he had to do and corrected some of the mistakes. In fact, it's this movie that, in a way, kind of feels like damage control for Batman vs. Superman. Take that, Last Jedi, or I'm sorry, Rise of Skywalker. That's how you do damage control. Now, granted, this movie is 4 hours long, which is a lot to ask for somebody, but if that's what it took to get a more better and cohesive and entertaining cut of this movie, then A, mission accomplished. The effects are not perfect, but still head and shoulders better than the theatrical cut. The 4:3 aspect ratio, it is a bit jarring at first because this movie was shot on IMAX, and honestly, I would have preferred if they just did the Letterboxd, but hey, after a while, I just kind of ignored it and just embraced the film, and I was sucked in. And another reason why this movie is 4 hours long, because I think it is mainly all the slow-mos. Like, I get it, Zack Snyder, you like your slow-mos, but after a while, once they start dragging the film, particularly doing the introduction of The Flash, and I know they're trying to replicate what they did with Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past, but even they know how to time it correctly. Whereas this is like, all right, get a fucking move on. But the overall strength of this movie is how it fleshes out the story and its characters. Like, remember how I said that this movie took time to flesh out the characters and also do damage control from Batman vs. Superman, and that's how I feel with Batman and Bruce Wayne in this movie, because he's the one recruiting everybody. There's a moment where he tells Alfred, I'm acting strictly on faith and not instinct. And we all know his arc in Batman vs. Superman, and knowing his arc in that film and how it adds to this film, it just works. Cyborg, played by Ray Fisher, he is definitely the heart of this cut in the movie because they definitely did him dirty in the theatrical cut, and they kind of alluded to him having a bigger role, but, you know. And outside of the movies, because I know he had some behind-the-scenes drama, and I don't know where he's at with that right now, but I just hope he continues to get work. But I loved everything with his father in this movie because he kind of has a estranged relationship with his father. He was both his creator and now his father. And I just love the ending of this film, which titled Father twice over. I forgot the name of that title, but basically it just ties everything in a nice little bow in terms of Cyborg's character arc. Now, Batman and Cyborg clearly got the much needed development they needed for this movie, and some characters, while handled better in this movie, kind of didn't get that much development. Now, granted, it's because they all got their own movies, such as The Flash, played by he who must not be named, and I do think he was less annoying in this movie than he was in the theatrical cut, and to some extent, The Flash. And of course, my favorite part from him is when he goes into the Speed Force to basically time travel. And when I remember watching it, I'm like, yo, they really doing this, and it's handled perfectly. Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot, and yes, there is that joke about them playing the music whenever she comes on screen. Yeah! But overall, there really wasn't that much of a difference with her character here. It's just better here. Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa. Like I said, he got his own movie, so there really wasn't that much needed for his character here, but I still prefer him in this movie than in the theatrical cut, and he did have some funny moments, and he did have some nice character moments between him and Wonder Woman, because, you know, in this universe, the Atlanteans and the Amazons, they don't really fuck with each other like that, but then you have the two of them from both of those two groups connected with each other and bonding over the fact that they are estranged from their people. It's just little character moments like that. It's just what makes this movie head and shoulders over the theatrical cut. And it clearly sees that Zack Snyder, he understood, like, let's treat them as people first before we treat them as gods or heroes. And then, of course, Superman, or in terms of the resurrection of Superman, is definitely handled better here. And this is definitely where the differences between the theatrical cut and the Snyder cut are most different, because you got that scene where he's at his memorial, he's resurrected, but he doesn't quite remember who he is, and so he attacks the other Justice League members. You can see some differences, but you also see some similarities, like the moment where Flash tried to run up on him in the Speed Force, but then Superman, he just turns around like, where do you think you're going? Yeah, I have super speed too, motherfucker. And we don't even get that scene where Batman, he's on the floor, on the ground talking about, ugh, yeah, something's definitely bleeding. You got Steppenwolf in this movie, who looks infinitely better than how he looked in the theatrical cut. Like, here he looks like more humanoid, whereas here he looks like more monstrous, which is what Steppenwolf should be. Alfred, he's just as snarky as he was in Batman vs. Superman, and I love it. Amy Adams does have more of a role to play in this movie pertaining to Superman, in which she's still grieving over the loss of Superman, but then once he's resurrected, she does play a part, and also plays a part in the future sequences. I even like all the stuff with Martian Manhunter, and it's a shame that this universe didn't continue, because I would have loved to see what Zack Snyder does with this. And the whole time, he was the general played by Harry Lennox the whole time, so it's like, when all this shit was going down, why didn't you help out? And lastly, all the stuff added with Jared Leto's Joker, that was clearly a reshoot, and I didn't care for it too much. And all the zoom in and blurry shots that Zack Snyder has done in his more recent films like Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon, it just kind of got annoying at a point. And you can clearly tell by all the setup for future movies at the end of this cut of the movie that Zack Snyder, he was clearly trying to set up things that would happen later on if they had let him continue on with this universe, but that's not happening. And it did get me admittedly excited, but hey, it is what it is. Overall, Zack Snyder's Justice League is the superior cut, period, point blank. And I gotta admit, it was a bit of a rough start for me watching it at the beginning, because this was my second viewing after all. But then as the movie went on, I just had more fun with it, and I was just glued to the TV. I'm gonna give Zack Snyder's Justice League the hard eyes emoji. And I'm finally done marathoning Superman movies or Superman-related movies. And that's it for the day. You probably have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League at this point, so tell me, do you like it? Do you like it? How does it compare to the theatrical cut of Justice League for you? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. And now I am ready for James Gunn's Superman. I can't wait. I am super excited. This is your boy Bankful B of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Peace.